third meeting of the creation of a master plan for Oregon Ridge Park. Tonight's meeting is all about getting your feedback on what you would like or maybe what you would not like to see in the park. After welcoming remarks from Director Johnson, we will turn the meeting over to Elizabeth Lardner, who is with Lardner Klein, the landscape architecture firm who is directing our master plan efforts. Elizabeth has put together what I think is going to be a fun poll in order to get your opinions on potential uses in the park. She will explain the details later in the meeting, but for now, it's going to be helpful for you to have your cell phones ready to scan in the QR code, which is how you will access the poll questions. After the polling is complete, the rest of the meeting will be dedicated to your feedback. If you would like to speak, please place your name in the chat sooner rather than later. Please make sure the name you put in the chat matches your login name. That's going to make it a lot easier for us to find you and unmute your microphone. And if you are here representing a group, please try and limit your group comments to one individual. And everyone, please try to limit your comments to 2 minutes or less. We would also like to invite you to the in-person meeting this Saturday from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock at the Oregon Ridge Lodge. And also invite you to the Family Fun Day, which will be going on in the park from 11 o'clock to 5 o'clock. And now I'd like to turn the meeting over to the Director of Recreation and Parks, Ms. Rosalind Johnson.
Thank you so much, David, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening so that you will be able to give your input on the master plan at Oregon Ridge. We're very happy that you are here with us today. One slight correction, this is not the third meeting. This is one of many meetings that we've had, many focus groups we've had, many write-ins, we've had surveys that have been conducted by our consultant, visitations that we've had at the park, and we've surveyed and questioned and asked park users who are actually at Oregon Ridge for their input. So we're trying to leave no stone unturned. So this is another meeting that we're having so that people will be able to give, people, i.e. you, will be able to give your public input. So thank you for being here tonight. I see we do have some elected officials with us tonight. I'd like to acknowledge Councilman Catch. I believe I saw him on. I think, Councilmember Catch, are you on? And would you like to give a few quick remarks?
Yes. Am I on?
Yes, you are. We can hear you,
Oh,
sir.
good. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. And my role here tonight is to listen to constituents and to find out what it is you would like to see at Oregon Ridge. Of course, I'm on the council and will have the responsibility of voting on the budget and making those kinds of decisions. I just want to make the statement that this area where Oregon Ridge is a very sensitive area. Um, it's been designated as rural. We do not have public water or sewer, and we're not going to put that there. We don't have large roads to accommodate a lot of people, and we're not going to be enlarging roads or doing anything to accommodate more traffic. And I look forward to this meeting. The park needs restoration, some of the buildings, etc. The only last thing I have to say is the lake is 40 feet deep in the middle, so it's dangerous actually. And the reason it's closed is that a child did drown there a few years ago. So anyhow, if anyone has any questions for me, please don't hesitate to contact me. And I look forward to hearing what people have to say about updating the park and continuing the uses that are going on there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Next, I see we have Delegate Heddleman on. Delegate, would you like to say a few words?
So hi, it's Molly from Senator Heddleman's office. She wishes she could be here tonight, but I'm here to just take notes for her.
Thank you, Molly, and I apologize with Delegate Senator.
No,
Heddleman.
that's okay.
Thank you so much. All right. And I think those are all the elected officials that my team has told me are in the waiting. I'm sorry, that are in on the call tonight. Again, this is another step in our process of getting public input. Tonight's meeting and Saturday's meeting will have the same setup and will have the same types of questions being asked. So if you plan on coming to Saturday's public input meeting, we're certainly not going to turn you away, but it will be like Groundhog's Day for you, where you'll say, wait a minute, I heard these questions before, and that will be correct, you have. So you can plan accordingly. I would also like to share, I think there were some emails going around saying that there's a draft master plan. As the director of the department, I can assure you there is no draft master plan just yet. I think our consultant will share that they have not drafted a master plan yet because we aren't finished getting public input. So nothing has been created at this point. So I just wanted to clarify that. And with that being said, I will turn it over to our consultant, Elizabeth Lardner.
Thank you very much. I'm grateful to be here. And I think there's another person that showed up as an elected official. Do you want to catch their conversation? I'm seeing in the chat before we start in on the poll, or should I just keep moving?
Oh, thanks. And we have Margie Margie Brassel here representing Delegate Dana Stein. So thank you for coming tonight as well.
You're most welcome. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. So thanks. We're delighted to be here back, continuing to ask you questions and solicit your ideas and opinions. This is a public meeting, that's where the third came from. It's the official public meeting, but we have done a lot of outreach in a lot of different ways. So the director is correct that we're trying a lot of different ways to try to get people's ideas and thoughts. This is virtual and it's tied to an in-person interactive public meeting on Saturday, October 8th. That'll be in the lodge between 1 and 3, and the festival will be from 11 to 5. The boards that we're going to share with you tonight are the same. There also will be large display boards, just sort of bit of a deeper dive than what we shared with you in June. So you're welcome to come and look at those more carefully. They're natural resource maps that have been updated on vegetative communities and also trail information, as well as our building assessment. So it's a chance for you to say, oh, you guys missed this, or you need to look harder at that. So if you've done this drill, come for that drill. I want to give you a quick update on where we are in the development of the master plan. As the director stated, we do not have any plan recommendations yet. We're still wrapping up our data gathering, our site work, our interviews, and our public outreach to inform us on what you think works in the park, what doesn't work, what should become a part of the park's future, and what should not. Tonight and this weekend, we're looking to continue to learn from all of you and are asking the question, in the future, what belongs in Oregon Ridge Park? What activities, what equipment, facilities, what management strategies should be considered? What should things look like? To prompt this conversation, we've put together 9 boards or slides to go through tonight with lots of ideas, and we want to hear your reaction and any other ideas or concerns they may spark. So look upon this not as a set bucket of ideas, but a collection of ideas that we hope, just as when you're designing your kitchen, you see A and think of B or C as more ideas. So we'd like to have this help you think sort of more broadly and about some possibilities of things that could happen or that you absolutely don't want to happen. And that's the feedback we're looking for. After this weekend, as we move into October and November, we'll start work on developing a framework and criteria for the development of alternative concept ideas. And we'll bring those alternative concepts, and that's designer speak for plan A, plan B. We'll likely end up with plan C as we pull pieces together after that. But we'll bring a plan A and a plan B with probably some pretty different approaches in those to you at a public meeting on November 12th. That's going to be held at the Nature Center from 1 to 3. That's a Saturday afternoon. And then we'll also have a virtual meeting that presents similar or the same information as best we can do from real life to virtual on the evening of November 6th at 6 o'clock. And that'll be a 6 to 8 window. The online survey that's posted on the county's webpage and is accessible by a QR code will remain open until October 31st. So there's plenty of time to get people to put their ideas in. At last look, we saw about 120 or 140 responses a couple days ago. That's pretty good on a big plan in a big community. The final plan recommendations then will come back to you in early 2023. So to the director's words, there are no recommendations yet. So don't think there's a hidden agenda. There's not. We're still trying to figure out what y'all want to have in this park. Let's move to the next slide, please. Thank you. So the meeting mechanics, how are we going to make this work? So we're all on this trip together. So good humor is important, patience. And if you get stuck, put I'm stuck in the chat room and we'll do our best to help you. The idea is like we're going to a restaurant during COVID and we're taking a picture of the QR code. So many more people are familiar with this technique than they used to be. So the bottom corner is going to be the QR code. So we'd like to get your reaction to a whole lot of images, and we're going to use the QR code that will take you to a survey so we can do online polling and you can see the results tonight. We want to hear what your likes are, similar to what we're going to do on Saturday afternoon, except Saturday afternoon, if you're struggling today, is low tech day. We're literally going to have red dots and green dots, stoplight, and big red dots and little red dots, big green lights and little green lights, and ask people to literally put them on the sheets of paper. So that's another way. If you end up being overwhelmed by this, follow along, don't participate, come on Saturday and you can do the dots. I just want to reassure or make sure that everybody understands this is not a vote. It's a sense. We're putting a finger in the wind. What do people tend to like? What do people not like? And it's not scientific. We're not pretending we're doing a scientific poll. So just putting that out for everybody's understanding. It's just one tool we're using to help us better understand what Baltimore County residents want to see at the park and when they visit. And I think the way to think about this is a framework of what do you want to see in 5 years? What do you want to see in 10 years? What do you want to see in 20 years? Our plan has a life of 20 years. By saying you want to see it in 5 years right now is not a guarantee that it will be there in 5 years, but it gives us a sense of urgency and sort of helps you frame these improvements will take place over time. They won't all happen tomorrow. These are possibilities and not decisions or recommendations. And the images in these image boards include features currently at the park and examples from other parks. And we've intentionally not focused on the buildings tonight where the lodge, the concert shell, the nature center, or restrooms. We will be talking about those when we come back in November. That's a whole different kind of scale of discussion on that. So to the mechanics. Use your camera on your smartphone to grab the QR code. And the alternative to the QR code is you can use the link that's in red on the screen, and it's also been put in the chat. If you click on it in the chat, it's going to have WebEx tell you to be cautious before you go to the next link. If you put it in your browser, it will take you to the survey directly. Kara and Rebecca from our office are going to be our gatekeepers and move us from a survey question and an image board to the next. So we'll throw up a set of images. We'll open that question on the survey. You all will answer. We're going to give you 2 minutes. It may take a little bit longer on the first couple just for everybody to get up to speed. And then David or Kara or Rebecca, one of those folks, are going to give you a 10-second warning. And what's really, really important is you hit the button that says vote. Because if you don't hit the bottom button that says vote, none of your input will be recorded. At this point, we'll switch from the image board. We'll look at the survey results for that question. And then if these images that we've put up there make you think of other things, we don't have an other category on this particular survey, but when we get to the chat, that's where there's an opportunity to talk about, well, what about this? I didn't see that. And be ready to share that. And to David's point, if you want to get in the chat, it would be nice to get your name in there so Drew can get ready to open it when we get to that point. Okay, so let's take a stab. Let's go to the next one, the slide. please. So this is the first image board, and it's just a collection of images that we've grabbed both from our work and from sites that we visited, and we've tried to organize them. So this board looks at places that we in the design field call gathering spaces. Picnic tables, open lawn areas, meeting facilities, indoor-outdoor classrooms, picnic pavilions, benches, concert areas. So our question on this is, what belongs in Oregon Ridge's future? Now, has everybody got a smile on the face? Have you all gotten your survey to work, or is this, are we moving together, or do we need to take a breath and get
Nope.
people caught up? We're good?
Elizabeth, the survey is up and running.
Right, so I'm looking, I can't see that many of you, so I just want to make sure people are also up and running with the survey access.
Elizabeth, can you go back one slide really quick to show the QR code so that people can take a picture in case they
Yeah.
closed it out?
Yeah, thank you.
All
And
right.
the back door is
Elizabeth.
always to use the link in your browser, which will take you to the exact same survey. Okay, ready to go on? Okay, thank you, Kara. Okay, this is our first response, so I want to give you some guidance. You have the option on the survey answers to click one item, multiple items, or all of the items. If nothing appeals to you, just don't vote on this board. And you'll get moved to the next one. We don't have a none on the list, but if nothing, you just won't participate if nothing is appealing. I have a hard time believing that you can't find one image that's appealing, but that's up to you. You're the voter. Not voting on one board does not prevent you from going to the next board and assessing it. So you're not locking yourself out like some surveys do. The results are going to come back to us in the form of a percentage. This many people pick this, or the percentage of choices. Again, not scientific, just to feel what kinds of spaces appeal to people. So go to the survey, click the boxes, as many or as few as you wish. And then if you get stuck, put a note in the chat. And this is sort of our dry run practice run. And the most critical thing after you put your entries in is be sure to press, I think it's a blue button that says vote, to get it to go in the system.
Okay, Elizabeth, I'm going to start the timer now. So everyone, you have 2 minutes, and I will give you a 10-second warning.
And the picture captions generally relate to the survey entries, generally.
Elizabeth, I feel like we should have some background music.
Yeah, you want to sing?
I could sing the Jeopardy tune.
I'm very excited. I think there's going to be hula hoops on Saturday, so I'm taking myself back to my 5-year-old self when I thought I could actually do it. We could do hula hoop dances right now.
I have heard that Mr. David Odell will be giving a hula hoop demonstration on Saturday.
That is incorrect.
It'll last all of 2 seconds. And the discipline as you're looking at these, don't critique the photo itself, critique the activity in the photo. That's a danger on these.
Elizabeth, there's a question in the chat. It says, I'm having trouble knowing how to vote. Question 1. So do you want to just go back through and just tell them how to, you click
Sure,
it and then
you
press the
could,
vote?
you could click it. So the question is, I approve all except the plaza meeting gatherings. So click all of the answers with the exception of that entry. If you like all the other images.
And additionally, since this is captured in the chat, we can, if
Yeah.
for some reason
Yeah.
there's a voting issue,
Yeah.
we do have
Yeah.
that represented in the chat.
Okay,
Yeah.
everyone, 10-second warning.
And don't forget to press vote.
All right, time's up. Kara, show the results, please.
And this just gives us a sense. It's not a final decision. It's not a recommendation. It's just a finger in the wind of what appeals to the group of folks on this call.
So Elizabeth's great. We had 43 participants in that vote. So I think,
Super. So
yeah, pretty good.
we're tech savvy group.
Yep.
Super. Okay, everybody had a chance to sort of look and get a sense of the relationships. And then we can move on to the next board. Thank you, Kara. We're going to go to 2. So the next 3 boards are focused on a really broad definition of play. So play includes things like David being in the hula dance. Play is for grown-ups and kids and everybody in between in our definition of play. That's what people do when they go outside and are in a park. We will view 3 collections of play opportunities. And on this board, a play opportunity could mean things that are already in the park, like volleyball and the sledding. Or it could be new activities like cyclocross or a rectangular field for lacrosse or soccer. So we'll have 3 different sets of images related to how we broadly define play. And we're just trying to get a feel for actually what kind of activities you would like to see in the park in the future at Oregon Ridge. So 2-minute clock starts, and look at the list on your survey and check 1, more than 1, all of them, or if you don't want to see any of these activities, leave it blank and still hit vote. And if it won't let you vote, then it'll kick you over to the next one anyway.
And also, if you have having an issue voting, if you do want to place it in the chat, we can make sure we capture
Yeah.
that input there as well.
How are we doing on time, David?
A minute.
Okay.
It's okay. It gives people time to think about what they're voting on and maybe even have some discussions at home.
And also, because we were unable to insert other as a line item, if these do prompt ideas, save them and we'll put them in the chat when we close out the boards. I'm hoping they will prompt some other suggestions. This is an endless list of opportunities, so this is just a representative sample.
Okay, 10-second warning. And Carrie, you can close it out and show the results.
That's great. This is helpful. Okay, we're going to go on to the second play board after everybody had a chance to look at the range and likes, dislikes. And again, this is looking at play for all ages, little people to grown-up people. And it just presents some more ideas of what play could mean to different folks, from adding paddle boats to the quarry to a splash pad, either alone or perhaps in conjunction with a playground being replaced or renovated, a community garden or a continuation of archery. Those are both already in the park. Again, go to the survey, pick 1, some or all, or leave it blank if you don't find any of these images appealing, that you'd like to see in the park when you come, say in 2030, 2035, 2040. And again, that doesn't mean they'll land there at those times, but just to help you think this is down the road a bit. It's all not going to commence tomorrow. Just trying to tee these up and make sure that improvements happen and they're improvements that you want.
And 10-second warning.
A pump track is like a little bike or a wheel course. Someone asked in the chat.
And time, Kara, would you like to present the results of that?
Excellent. It's interesting the different patterns if you just look at the bars and then tie them back to uses. This is really helpful. Yeah, you can't, right. Judy was asking about you can't reject all options. We take responsibility for that because we didn't get a none into the survey, but you shouldn't be able to vote, but you'll be able to vote on the next round. So your vote just won't be in this one. The third, so let's go to the third series of image boards for play. Again, trying to keep the definition of play broad. This has an image of a natural surface trail on the upper left, form of play for many, particularly in this park. Running trails on the ski slope in the middle right, which is another form of play, hiking on that ski slope for folks in the park and heavily used. Where do you all stand on the national embracing of pickleball courts? Tore my neighborhood apart. Public art, a viewing tower. What kinds of new, if any, additions are appealing or not at all appealing? And again, if you feel strongly about not appealing, you're welcome to put it in the chat because we're going to copy the chat and we can see it after the meeting.
And 10-second warning. Make sure you press that vote button. And time. Kara, present the results, please.
I just want to, are other people losing their connectivity or is it just one person? We're still mostly all on board? We don't want to do this if people have dropped.
Sometimes what happens is you lose the connection, but there's a little tiny button underneath that you press and you go right back into it. Same screen.
Okay. Ralph, did you find that little tiny button?
It says yes.
Okay. So this gives us a sense of these images, which is great. I'll take a screenshot. Okay, let's go to our last. I'm sorry, we're going to switch. Now we're going to playgrounds specifically. And one of the reasons we're doing that is the big playground is in the queue for replacement. So it would be really helpful for us to be able to shape the master plan on the type of playground folks would like to see replaced. And also on Saturday, we're going to have a table with pipe cleaners and clay and washable magic markers where kids can design a playground. So we wanted to have images. These images will be available for the kids and some playground pieces they can cut up. So this is working both ways for tonight and Saturday, but that's one of the reasons for the deeper dive into the playground discussion. The large playground near the lodge really needs to be replaced. And we're looking as part of the plan, should it be replaced in the same place or somewhere else in the park? And what kind of playground do people want to see in the future there? The natural materials playground, which is the lower right-hand image at the Nature Center, is beloved. And so Saturday we'll get a better feel, I think, for the kind of materials people would like to see the playground being made of. We don't have the ability to do that tonight. So tonight we're really looking for the kind of playground people would like, the kind of activities people would like to see available for kids and bigger kids, because you can design playgrounds to be stronger too. In these next two boards, we're hoping to better understand what kinds of activities are appealing, swings, slides, climbers, what kind of materials are desired. And these boards have a lot of ideas and examples. They're climbing features, balance elements, climbing towers. What sorts of things appeal to you for yourself or for your kids or for grandkids or for children in general? That if the decision is to go forward with a new playground design, it should incorporate some of these or all of these or none of these elements. So again, you can hit one and leave the rest blank. You can hit multiple, you can hit all of them. And if you don't like any of them, just don't vote and put a note in the chat if you feel strongly, and then we'll catch you on the next one.
And Elizabeth, I'm seeing some really fantastic comments in the chat.
Yes, yeah,
And I just want to remind people that if you would like to speak, just put your name and say, I'd like to speak. It's hard for us to know that you're just putting out a comment and just want to leave it at that, or you would actually like to speak. So please put your name and maybe just a little note that says, I'd like to speak. Thank you. And 10-second warning. Okay, time's up. Kara?
so this is gives us a sense of the kind of play structures or equipment that are appealing to the folks on the call. Again, it's to somebody's comment in the chat, it's just a percent of based on the entries that were given. So we're not doing a scientific poll. We're not trying to get to 100. We're just trying to get, if we were in a room together, it would be like, raise your hand if you're keen on number one, raise your hand if you're keen on number two. So it's just getting a sense. It's no pretending that this is scientific, but it does give us a clue as to what people's interests are. The next slide, please. Again, this is more playground images because I think that's a conversation that we will be having in November with the existing playground that's by the lodge, and what to do, whether it stays, whether it goes, whether it's redone or restored. This one has a lot of images that are arches and tunnels. Huts have made sort of a big comeback in various forms in playground equipment recently. To the middle slide, houses and a variety of step climbers and swings also in this. So again, just what strikes your fancy and what would a child you know find intriguing?
All right, throwing out a 10-second warning. Kara?
This is interesting. It's a much closer split. Okay, so let's move on to the next board. Please, Kara. Linear connectors, which is another way to frame trails. Trails are key to the Oregon Ridge's future. They're really critical elements. So thinking about what trails mean in this park is a big component as we move forward. This board presents images of a number of different trail types, from paved trails, ADA accessible trails, to natural surface trails, to trails that create spaces. The image on the lower left is a paved trail with a little notch out for a skate park trick on the side. That's instead of doing a skate park, you can do little pieces along a trail. Or the slide in the upper middle is another way you could take a trail and make it a space as well. So you have a sitting area or a play area attached to the trail. Doesn't have to be all one kind of trail. Maybe the park has multiple kinds of trails. And there's also a big need for bridges on some of the stream crossings. So recognizing that and what options might be available for that as well. So again, choose one, mini, all, or if none of these appeal to you, don't vote. And if you feel very strongly, put that as a point in the chat. But do remember, if you are voting, to press that vote button so you get counted in the tally.
And 10-second warning. Okay, Kara, feel free to show the results.
Super. And again, it's useful to use the chat. If you're stuck on the poll and it won't work, feel free to use the chat as a second place to place your opinion. Okay, let's go to the last slide, please. I'm sorry, we have two more slides. This slide, so we're sort of switching gears a little bit. The prior slides were about activities that people would do in the park. And this speaks to both activities as well as the potential need for management strategies, management plans, and a more comprehensive look at how the resources are managed. Lots of large areas of the park are relatively undeveloped. And so this slide is really asking you for your sense of what management activities should be considered. The images on this board range from issues related to erosion and need for erosion control, needing to have better native vegetation management and protection from deer, installation and continued management for sustainable trails, meadow development or expansion of your existing meadows, and control and management of non-native invasive species and habitat enhancement. And again, one, mini, all, or none, and then you have to put that in the chat if you feel strongly that way, so we understand that. And remember, when you do enter any, be sure to put, oh, and my apologies, habitat, this is our technical skill set problem. Habitat enhancement, can you put that in the chat, please? Because we were unable to add it to the survey. So and remember to hit the blue button if you want your vote to register. The invasive species, you can see it under the forest management if people are looking there.
Uh, 10-second warning, please. Okay, Kara, show the results.
Pretty much
Across the board.
across the board, yeah. Okay, so this is, next one is our last slide, and then we'll move to the open chat. If you could switch, please, Kara. There you go. And this is last but not least. The final image board has a collection of ideas for interpretation, demonstration gardens such as a woodland garden down on the bottom right, or a pollinator garden in the middle, educational field trips in the middle left, or someone you know leading a group of kids through the Oregon Ridge Park on a fun hike, non-native invasive plant education campaigns, educational panels, wildlife viewing opportunities, so how people can learn more about their outdoor environment and which things particularly appeal to you. And again, you can put one in, some in, all in, and if none of these appeal, then put it in the chat if you have strong feelings, or just don't vote. And if you do enter things, remember to hit the blue button so it's recorded.
I just caught a question. It said, what is forest bathing, Elizabeth?
Oh my goodness. I'm not sure I'm the best person to try to define it. I do believe there's been forest bathing activities in your park. As a landscape architect, I see it as people getting out in the woods and listening for the birds, using their eyes to observe, and just getting unplugged and being in the woods. Somebody may have a more eloquent definition of it, but it is an activity, and people have written books on it and offer classes in it.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I think it's an Asian term,
Yeah.
but forest bathing is really taking in all that nature has to offer. You're not bathing, but you're more or less basking in nature.
Good.
So you are just taking in the sights, the sounds, the smells, the greenery. There have been studies that have proven that it reduces your blood pressure when you forest bathe. That San Francisco's done some tests and have written some articles, medical articles about improving one's health. They've taken patients directly from a hospital and children out into the forest. They've taken them on walks so they could immerse themselves in nature, and it has improved their health. So that's forest bathing.
Correct. Japan and Kathy Wolf have had a lot of involvement in that, defining that.
Okay. 10-second warning, please. Kara, please show the final results.
Again, pretty even Stephen here. And that's it for our image boards. They will be the same image boards on Saturday, but with dots instead of poles. So for those of you who are wondering what denominator we're using and everything, think of this more as a red dot, green dot kind of poll rather than an aggregate total and who wins. It's just trying to get a sense from people's responses what appeals to them. So it's not a preference, visual preference study that's structured to be scientifically valid. And with that, I will turn it over to David on the chat.
Well, thank you very much, Elizabeth. I thought that was a lot of fun. I think it was worthwhile doing. Um, so as we said in the beginning of the meeting, the rest of the meeting is yours. It's up to you. Please put your name in the chat. Drew will find your name, unmute you, and allow you to speak, provide comments of things you might want to see in the park or don't want to see in the park, or just anything you want to talk about as far as Oregon Ridge Master Plan.
And David, if I could add one piece
Yep.
before we begin,
Yep.
just in the sense of everyone's time, we have loudly and clearly seen the desire for habitat enhancement. And then there was one question that I wanted to just briefly speak on. There was a question about our bikes definitely permitted going forward, and I think the correct answer here is, at this point, nothing has been determined yet. We are still in our input stages, so I didn't want to get any mixed signals that we are moving in one direction or another at this point in the process. I believe the phrase, Director Johnson, is we're conducting a robust public input process in this and all park developments.
All right. Looks like our first speaker is Margie Brissell, and I will unmute you now. You should be unmuted.
Actually, no, I wasn't speaking. I was just introducing myself earlier.
Okay.
Thank you.
Looks like our next speaker will be Judy Fulton. Judy, you were unmuted.
Thank you. I have not prepared any remarks, but I found out about this meeting about 15 minutes before it happened. But I represent the Native Plant Society. The board in particular asked me to be the representative for our approximately 2,200 members in terms of input into the master plan. And we view the Oregon Ridge Park as a real treasure in Baltimore County. And it is one of the only parks that really hasn't been developed and that has natural trails. We would like that to continue. We also are interested in protecting the Class 3 trout stream, which is very important and unusual at this point in Baltimore County. It is used for research throughout the US. It's one of the research streams, so it's very important not to do anything that would damage that. In terms of keeping the trails natural, we believe that people should be able to walk without any disturbance. And even if there were separate trails for horses and for bikes, those with the best intentions can cause damage to the park. Among other things, I did put a comment in the chat. Among other things, they can introduce invasive plants, and the invasive plants can damage the native plants. In addition, the native plants are important for our beneficial insects and for our songbirds, and the invasive plants can end up hurting those too. So we're definitely in favor of making some good improvements, for instance, to the trails in the park, but we think that this should stay as natural as possible, a park for everyone who wants to come to enjoy, especially other people in Baltimore County. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Marty B.
Okay, I have hiked the trail for the last 50 years, and I've noticed that there's been a lot of changes to the forest. And one of the things that I really did not like was the fact that a few years ago they harvested a lot of oak trees, and unfortunately the loggers took away quite a few white oak trees and other very good oak trees, and the excuse was that it was going to open up the forest, but what it did was it opened up the forest to invasive plants. And so now when you go up to the top of the ridge, there's a lot of wineberry and lots of vines, and also the other problem is the deer eat up most of the oak trees. So any of the oak trees that were left, the deer eat all the acorns, pretty much most of them, and there's no forest regeneration. And so when they logged for that opening the forest, so it's multi-age, they didn't plant oak trees like they should have. There were no oak trees planted, and now we're having a problem where the area is becoming more of a monoculture. There's mostly tulip trees, and the few oak trees that they left were, they just left a few oak trees. They harvested a lot. So I think the county needs to spend a good deal of its budget for this renovation and try to reintroduce oak trees. Now, as a bird watcher, I know there's many different birds that rely on the white oak tree. The scarlet tanager, there's been studies done where many different birds rely on these oak trees. And so we've changed the forest by logging and not replacing. And also, I guess if we did somehow reduce the deer population, that would help natural forest regeneration. But I'm sure that's a challenge I'm sure once you remove deer from the surrounding area, probably move in. But I think there should be a concerted effort on, reintroducing the oak forest where the logging was done. I guess that's it for me.
Thank you, Marty. Next up, we have Beth Miller. Beth, you are unmuted.
Thank you. I just want to say that I agree with both of the previous comments, and that when I look at Recreation and Parks mission, I don't see any mission that includes protecting and preserving nature. It's about recreation and activity. And I think that's a shame for a park especially like Oregon Ridge. I think all of our parks in Baltimore County have to do double duty. Because we have developed so much of this county inside the Erdl. So we are relying on our parks to perform a lot of functions, including providing habitat, providing climate resilience, providing emotional and physical well-being to the residents. So I just wanted to put in my comment about how important I think this park is to preserve as a nature park. When I hear the word development, it makes me uncomfortable because I don't think this park wants to be developed. I think it wants to be preserved and protected. And I also very strongly disagree with any kind of commercialization of our park, any kind of monetizing that it would bring in revenue to this county. That is not the mission of our park. This is public land. It shouldn't be open to a private concession to generate income, even if the county is benefiting in some way from that income. That's not the mission of our parks. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. And if I can add, you are absolutely correct. Our previous mission did not include any environmental goals. We have just changed our mission, and we actually sent out an email to staff earlier today. We had an all-staff last Wednesday, and we shared our new mission with staff. So I'm going to read it to you. It hasn't been updated on our webpage yet, but you are 100% correct. And so our mission is the Department of Recreation and Parks provides programs and places that celebrate and build community through innovation, sustainable and inclusive recreation opportunities, partnerships, and facilities. So that is, keeping our parklands for the future generations and preserving them. So thank you for that comment. It was a great opportunity to remind me that we had not shared that with the public. So thank you, and I will pay you later.
Next up is Winnie Tan. Winnie, you should be unmuted.
Great, thank you. I'm not sure if my video is working. Oh, there I am. So I've been a longtime user of the park. I bring my family, my kids go there for summer camps. I bring lots of friends. I'm currently a volunteer at the Nature Center as well as on the council. And as a former park employee too, it has a lot of connections for me. So I guess, it's for me, it's about the habitat enhancement and making sure that there is open space for people to come and enjoy. And over the COVID period in the 2 years, I've just seen how much people have really appreciated using these trails. It's a place for people to get out, get fresh air, enjoy nature. But it does also have a big impact on the land because of all the users. So what I also see that is with all the amount of people coming to use the park casually or coming to do the program, there's not enough staffing. There's so much volunteers that can also help out that there definitely needs to be more staffing to help out with providing these opportunities as well as providing a safe space. Trails that are safe for people to walk. They're not tripping over rocks because it's eroded, stumps coming out, and staff to help kind of manage the volunteers because that's a space that volunteers do help out with, helping with the habitat restorations and the different kinds of programming. But if you don't have the people there, then volunteers kind of don't know what to do. So definitely a lot more people to kind of do that. There's a lot of dogs that are off leash, as well as I carry a waste bag with me to pick up dog waste. And, there's just, if there are going to be rangers out there, then there definitely needs to have time as well as the amount of staff that can allow to be out there and kind of manage the site. So definitely more staffing is kind of what I'm saying. And my thing too is about equability. I mean, the only way to get to the park is if you have a car. And I used to get phone calls from people like, can I walk from the light rail station, which I do not recommend. It's unsafe. I don't even understand how bike riders go, down the road. So definitely if there's some kind of transportation system for people to do the light rail and then be able to come to the park and enjoy it, it kind of allows access to like more people who want that open space. The other thing I want to talk about is just sustainability. As we move forward in improving the park is, what kind of materials are being used? Like when you're talking about paving, is it permeable? There's all these wonderful ways to add great infrastructure, but, I hope that you're also looking at sustainability at the same time that, we're also creating things like rain gardens and, green features in when we're updating our buildings. So that's mainly what I have.
Drew, you were muted.
Drew, you are muted.
Sorry about that. Thank you. I don't have any additional names in the chat asking to speak. There are 2 call-ins, which I'll unmute one at a time. I just got one more in. William Inter, if you'd like to speak, you are unmuted.
Great, thank you very much. I just wanted to speak to the issue that's come up a number of times around mountain biking. in the trails. First of all, I would make a distinction as we think about future use between biking and equestrian use. I think there is a difference, but I think a lot of the issues that often are raised with respect to erosion on trails and coming from biking is actually more about trail design than necessarily biking use. We see the same thing on well-used hiking trails. If there isn't appropriate trail design, it leads to erosion. So I think a lot of those concerns can be addressed with trail design. I also think that when you have active mountain biking groups, they're often very willing to participate and assist with trail management and maintenance. So I do think that it's a great opportunity to get kids involved in being outdoors and providing additional uses for people in the community. There really isn't a tremendous amount of opportunities to do that in Baltimore County, and would love to see that opportunity in Oregon Ridge. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up will be Stuart Stanman. Just give me 1 minute. You should be unmuted right now.
Thank you. I'd just like to note that 1970s, the quarry was open for swimming, and I would go up there after work. I don't like swimming in a swimming pool, and the quarry offered a freshwater swimming opportunity, and there was a small changing area, not very fancy, and I noticed that that swimming opportunity has been closed, and I would just encourage you to consider reopening the quarry for swimming. The other thing that I commented in the chat, there's I haven't seen or heard anything about the utility right-of-ways, and I wonder if there's any plans to work with the utilities or utilize those for tree planting or for planting of native bushes or shrubs or wild flowers. And if there's any thought of putting artwork in the park, I would hope it would be by in the valley on the near the nature center or the playgrounds, and not up among the trails. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Joseph Millman. Joseph, you should be unmuted.
Thanks all. First, a quick, huge thank you to Ms. Landner and also Baltimore County. I mean, this is a phenomenal forum. Working and listening to you all over the past year has been really wonderful as a citizen of Baltimore County, and kudos to the county for taking on this large project. I mean, it's the right thing to do. I know it's a master plan, but it's we need more spaces like this, and we need more people out in nature. I mean, I love the outdoors. I'm an avid hiker. I'm an avid mountain biker. I love watching birds. I get both sides of the issues. I think we're very fortunate that we've got an area that's large enough, and that we've gone through this process of getting so much input that we can probably satisfy so many different groups. mountain biking is something that the park does not have. We want to bring in different types of people, mountain biking and a different trail system separate from the hiking. I mean, I do the hiking there, and the hiking trails are in complete disarray, need a lot of work. So money needs to go to that, but also on the mountain biking side. I mean, two quick stories, from a mental health perspective. Over COVID, and my son, 14 years old, got into mountain biking. We did a lot of mountain biking together. And the way he felt, and since introducing his friends to this, after coming out of the woods on their bike, just was a huge lift to the mental health of these kids that have had 2 really hard years. I think we have to look at what nature does to the mental health of children. We know what it does to us. We know we all feel much better when we leave nature. The other quick story that I heard being on another call a month ago was a woman from the Patterson Park mountain biking. It's an all-girls mountain biking team in Patterson Park. And when she got back into the woods after 2 years through COVID, it brought tears to her eyes. The coach was telling me that she was crying and she was so happy that she was back in the woods. We need to expose more kids to these types of activities. To talk a little bit about what Mr. Inkner was just saying about as far as staffing and taking care of these facilities once they're developed. I don't know much about hiking and people taking care of the trails. I know it doesn't happen in Oregon Ridge because the trails are a mess, but I know in all of the areas that we mountain bike, there's an organization called MORE. It's Mid-Atlantic Off-Road Enthusiasts. And just to give you a couple stats, we take care of pretty much free of charge. It's all volunteers. We take care of all the trails to make sure that they're sustainable. Once trails are built, they're built in an eco-friendly and sustainable manner, and then we take care of them. It's the mountain bikers that do all of the work to maintain the trails for the hikers and for obviously the mountain bikers. There's over 1,900 members of MORE. 492 of them are in Baltimore County. We have almost weekly events where it's a limit of 100 people, and it always sells out. I always bring my son, and we do work on the trails, and it's fixing the trails. So the amount of work that we do in the Maryland, DC area. So it's 1,900 members, more than 70 trail that we work on every single year, different events, 832 miles, and 16,000 volunteer hours in 2021. Like, that's the key. Staffing is a serious issue. We're an amazing, diverse group that wants to help. We want to fix the trails. We just need more mountain biking trails in the community, and we need more people in nature, because we know, all of us on this call know how nature makes us feel when we come out in nature, whether you're a bird watcher, whether you're a hiker, or whether you're a mountain biker. So again, kudos to the county for putting this together. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to open this up to the 2 call-ins. The first one I'll unmute is a 302 number. If you'd like to speak, you are unmuted. Anyone there? All right, I'm going to go to a 410 number. 410, and the first number will be 8. You're unmuted if you'd like to speak. You have a comment, you're unmuted. All right, that is all the. All right, Ralph Brown, I just saw you pop in. Ralph Brown, you were unmuted.
Okay, thank you. I am the president of the Oregon Ridge Nature Center Council, and I'm really heartened by the response tonight, because it seems like overwhelmingly people want the park to stay as a nature park, want it to be improved and expanded as a nature park. So I have a couple comments. One is in regard to staffing, because someone mentioned about it would be nice to have receptacles along the trails, and I certainly agree, but you have to realize that the park has two full-time employees. That is it. And these two full-time employees work incredibly hard. They would love to make sure that there are no dog excrement along the trails or plastic bags with dog excrement left along the trail, but they do not have the time to go and empty receptacles. They are too busy doing other things. So more staffing would be fantastic. The trails, everybody who has commented about the trails have mentioned the deplorable and treacherous condition. For a number of years now, the Nature Council has been trying to improve our trails. And in the past year, we received a $50,000 grant. Actually, the county went to the county with the understanding that that money was to be used for our trails from Michelle, Delegate Guyton, and Senator West. That $50,000 was earmarked for improvement of the trails. We would love to be able to use that money to start making our trails sustainable and safe. And also, we received $50,000 towards the establishment of a woodland garden, which has also been on the drawing board for many years. We have bids. We know exactly where we want to put this, and it would be wonderful if we could proceed with these two projects. The last thing I want to mention is the mountain biking. We in Oregon Ridge have 7 miles of trails. The average mountain biker, when they go out, I've read statistics that they ride like at least 30 to 50 miles. That is the typical ride for a mountain biker. And a mountain biker recently sent me an article about this park in Virginia, the Pocahontas State Park, and said it's wonderful. They have separate trails for hiking and separate trails for biking. When I looked it up, they had like 70 miles of trails that were just for mountain bikers or were multiple use trails. This park was 8 times the size of Oregon Ridge. If you think about on 7 miles of trails, putting in, allowing bikes on those trails, and supposedly there are hundreds of mountain bikers who are just chafing at the bit to get onto those trails with such a minimal amount of trail space, that is just, there is no way that that is going to work. Just no way. I will not get into the possible, who causes more damage to the trails or what's going to happen, how you're going to keep e-bikes off the trails. I won't get into that, but just picture hundreds of e-bikes on a few miles of trails, and you're hiking there with your child, your dogs, and suddenly there are hundreds of mountain bikers there. Just picture that in your mind and think, is that really going to work at Oregon Ridge? The Oregon Ridge Nature Center Council definitely does not think that that could ever work at Oregon Ridge. We want those hiking trails improved. We want them made safe. We want them made sustainable. We've got the money. We're ready to go ahead and do that. All we need is approval from the county. Thank you.
And if I may, just really quickly, just to update a couple of things. One, we do agree that the park is understaffed for as many staff as we would like to have there. That's something that we're working on. However, they're not 2 full-time staff, they're 4 full-time staff at Oregon Ridge. So I just want to make that note. And then on any improvements to the park, we have agreed, based on popular demand, to hold off on any major improvements to the park pending the master plan. We promised the community that the master plan would be a clean slate and we would take your input. And so we didn't think it was right to, 1, promise a clean slate, and 2, start to do enhancements. So we have held off until the outcome of the master plan. So I just wanted to add those 2 little pieces of information.
Thank you, Director. We have one more speaker, Linda Davis. You are unmuted. Ms. Davis, are you able to speak? You should be unmuted. I just tried unmuting you again.
What about now? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, good, good. Thank you for this opportunity to gather public opinion and to have a face-to-face or remote exchange of ideas. During this past week, several of the members of the Baltimore County Green Alliance have been in conversation about the prospect of mountain biking at the Oregon Ridge Park. And I took that as an opportunity to educate myself. I did not know much about mountain biking nor the environmental impacts of it. So I did a bunch of reading and talking to people and did a lot of online research that I'd be glad to share with anybody who's interested. At the end of my very short spiel, I will put my email address in the chat for anybody who would like to contact me, and I will forward to them the gathered data and research and whatnot. In my brief research, I noted that the negative impacts of mountain biking come up on wet trails, which the Mid-Atlantic Off-Road Enthusiasts site warns against. The damage occurs on uphills and downhills, that is pedaling up the hills and then sliding down the hills and sliding at the bottom of the hills, which is very common. The damage occurs in informal trails, what are called rogue trails in the mountain bike lingo, which are very popular. It occurs in using natural features like rocks and plants and tree sides, trunks to launch from. And there are many, many incidents. If you just Google mountain bike video, you'll see examples of all of this. But the most impact is formed during the actual trail building. And if you go on the Mid-Atlantic Off-Road Enthusiast site, you'll see two examples, which I have screen captured in my gathering of research. And it was very informative to see the extensive retrofitting and rearrangement of the landscape in order to create a mountain bike trail. So I won't go on and on, but I was surprised and informed this past week, and I would be glad to share with anybody what I discovered. And my conclusion was pretty emphatic, and that was that the current educational and recreational activities that are already happening, not just near the trails, but throughout the park, and that includes on the west side, there is extensive educational opportunities happening. Classrooms from all over, from pre-primary, pre-K kids up to postgraduates are coming into the park to learn. And likewise, there are recreational opportunities that engage that part of the park. So my conclusion was that mountain biking, although thrilling and athletic and challenging and certainly outdoors, it wouldn't be compatible with the extensive activities, recreational and educational, that are already happening in the park. So I'm going to stop here. I'm going to put my email in the chat, and I'm glad to forward to you this short, it's mostly photos, examples and research to find out more. If you don't know about mountain biking, I'd be glad to share that with you. So thanks for this opportunity, and I look forward to sharing more with you during other public sessions.
Thank you. 2 minutes exactly. All right. Next, we have William Entner. I think your son wanted to speak. You are unmuted.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for letting me speak tonight. I actually just came back from mountain biking practice. I'm on the North Baltimore County Copperheads team. And because it's been very wet the past few days, we're just practicing on the NCR trail, just working on pedaling. And so like if it's wet, we stay off the trails. We're really respectful and we make sure to maintain them. Currently, when we're normally doing our trail rides, we have to park at the side of a road where there's really no parking and it's very busy and it's really not very safe to be able to practice. And trails at Oregon Ridge would be really a great place for us to practice. We already do field practice there on Tuesdays, but this would really expand our options and it would just be great. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Deborah Spice Kleinman. You should be unmuted.
Before you, I just wanted to thank Jonah for speaking. I know as a young person, sometimes it's intimidating to speak with a bunch of adults, but you did an excellent job. So thank you, Jonah.
Yeah, thank you, Jonah. I appreciated hearing you too. My name's Deborah Kleinman, or Spice, and I'm the chair of the Greater Baltimore group of the Sierra Club. And we have been talking to our members a lot about different issues in Oregon Ridge. I know that people were not happy with the zip line proposal, and I know that that is off the table now. Even though I used to teach on a zip line, I taught outdoor adventure education and did high ropes and low ropes, and it was wonderful. But I don't think Oregon Ridge is the place for that. I've been going to Oregon Ridge for about 20 years. I sing, I'm a folk singer, and I've sung at Music in the Woods, and I've done a lot of activities at the Nature Center. And I know that mountain biking is a very fun sport as well. And I believe that it would do damage to the trails. I also feel like it would impede other people from using them if you're hiking and you have to get out of the way for a bicycle. And we have been talking to our members who utilize the park a lot, and there are not, Oregon Ridge is such a special place. It's a quiet place. It's a place for education, and it's a place for, I just don't want the park to turn into like a Cabin John or and I grew up around Cabin John, and I went on the trains and Wheaton Regional Park, but the forest, in my opinion, is the most important thing to preserve. We are losing species. You know that 1 in 8 birds on the planet are endangered, 1 in 8, and they're disappearing. And forests are the places where these animals thrive. And I don't know if my time's up, but I just wanted to voice that I would like to leave it as natural as possible.
Thank you. I've given everyone a little 10-second buffer. Next up,
someone unmuted me. Well, thank you again.
Next up, I see Mary Glassman. You are unmuted.
All right. I'm not sure I can get my video going, but I'll just speak. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I am a former teacher in Baltimore County, and I worked at Bedonia Elementary School for 15 years, which is right down the road from Oregon Ridge. And I just like to say that field trips to Oregon Ridge are often the first exposure to nature that many of my students had. And we have a very high Hispanic population. A lot of Central American families have immigrated to the Cockeysville area, and it would be wonderful if we could get more staffing at Oregon Ridge so that more field trips could be possible, and not rely so heavily on volunteers. Volunteering is wonderful. I do it at Oregon Ridge, but often field trips can't be accommodated when schools want them because there isn't enough staffing in Oregon Ridge. So I really feel like the educational mission of Oregon Ridge needs to be part of the focus of this master plan. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I am going to pass this back to Deputy Director Bob Smith.
Thank you, Drew. And again, I want to echo all the leadership team's thoughts tonight. We appreciate all the input that we've received. And this, however, is not the last opportunity for input. It's just the most recent. We will be having the event this Saturday at Oregon Ridge Park. From 11 to 5 will be the overall Fun Fest. From 1 to 3, we'll be having the input meeting in the lodge area. So we invite everyone to come and try to pass the word. We want to get all the input possible as we work our way through this process. There is currently a survey still out and active that everyone can participate in, as well as the Oregon Ridge Master Plan email address that is on the Oregon Ridge Master Plan on the county's webpage, and we'll put the email address in the chat as well. And then additionally, coming up in November 12th, we will be rolling out the concept plans and recommendations. The first will be on November 12th, and that will be in person. Again, that will be on a Saturday at Oregon Ridge in the lodge. And we will follow that up with a virtual meeting that Thursday as well from 6 to 8 p.m. That way everyone has an opportunity to hear that. I just wanted to pass those next steps on. And again, thank everyone for their input this evening. And I will now pass over to Director Johnson for closing.
Thank you so much, Deputy Director Smith. And thank you everyone for being here tonight. We wanted to hear from you. This was an open forum for you to be able to share your thoughts, your concerns, your comments. We want to thank you for participating. There is the event on Saturday, as Bob mentioned, and we have no plans as of yet. So we need your help to create this plan, and we need your input as well. I want to thank everyone for being here, and we may see some of you on Saturday. If not, hopefully we will see you at the November meetings. Additionally, as it relates to staffing, we have heard your concerns. The consultant has heard your concerns, but I want to invite you all out to come out at the budget forums that the county executive hosts and have your voice heard. That is where the county executive begins to develop his plan. And we're fortunate that he has been extremely supportive of the Department of Recreation and Parks, as have the council members for the county. But that's where you can also give your input as far as budget is concerned, and your voice can be heard there. If you have not already liked our Facebook page, please like our Facebook page and our Twitter, and we will post our information there for upcoming meetings. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night, and be safe out there.